Good evening. This is Charles X. White. We join you again for an informational conversation on current events and some of the most important things that are happening in our world today. We're at Public Affairs, Public Access program on broadcasting from the studios of HMS TV. We're on several platforms, and we hope to bring you some good information. The first introductory comments that I want to have has to do with the panic, and I think justified panic on the coronavirus. Right now on the national news, the local news, and of course Texas happens to be one of those states that is like a runaway train. We can't emphasize enough for people to wear your mask. And, you know, everybody is repeating it because it saves lives. It has proven to save lives. I see in backyards a bunch of people, no mask, all celebrating. It's just, and the biggest example of that is the governor from Oklahoma, who now has come down with the coronavirus, tested positive, and you know, these mixed signals coming from the White House by the president about wearing or not wearing a mask. You know, we need to pay attention to the current events. And senior folk and mature folk, you need to find a way to talk to the young folk and let them know that we don't need to lose them just because they didn't put on a mask. I think this is a very serious issue with the rapid growth that this surge in infections and people testing positive. I've had 2 tests and about 5 weeks apart, and came up negative. And in another couple of weeks or so, I'm going to take another test. Now, I don't try to be out and about, none of that, and I try to leave early. If I have to go out, leave early and come in early. Leave early when there are a few people in the places, the retail stores and retail outlets. On today, there were several chain stores saying that they were going to make it mandatory for the customers to wear the mask in the stores. I think it's Target, Kroger, Walmart, and it's about 10 or 12 of them. They're going to that. Now, the countries that go into the mandatory lockdown and they held to it are seeing stabilization. They don't see as many cases coming out now. Houston, Texas, was part of that group that opened up early against the advice of Dr. Fauci. Now, Dr. Fauci is becoming a very, very controversial person for Donald Trump and his supporters. Now, I think we need to pay attention to the politicalization of the COVID syndrome. You know, it's like a political football. Everybody uses it to their advantage, and they use it to talk about the Democrats or the Republicans. And I think that's foolish. I don't see no difference in outcomes in the Black community, Democrat or Republican or independent. I do want to raise my glass or tip my hat to Black Lives Matter people. And I think that they are raising the bar, the attention of issues that were very similar in the 60s and the 70s. So this cycle that we're cycling into across the globe, that people are including the Black community, the Black presence, in an acknowledgement way, positive, I think is something to be noteworthy. Now, we don't need to start celebrating too soon. We have to be able to extract some substance out of this period of time. And here again is where the senior folks and the mature folk need to give some guidance and words of wisdom to the young folk. And however that process happens in your family, I urge you to initiate that process. Okay. Whoa, there she is. The Houston Independent School District Superintendent, Dr. Grenita Lathan. So that was an excellent introduction. You just popped in. On the camera, you just popped in and said, okay, well, she ready. How you doing, Doc?
I'm well. Good evening, and thank you for having me this evening.
Well, we want to thank you, Doc. We have a medical doctor, Dr. Carlisle, and she's the president of the Black Female Physicians Association. And I want to try to see, as we get closer to the school year, if, because she's going to come back on and give us an update sometime. And I'm hoping that the closer we get to the school year, is I want her to be on, if it's possible, for you and her to be on at the same time.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, her name is Dr. Sylvia Carlisle, and she has a lot of good information. And I just think that'll be a good match. Today, what I want to do, I know you have, you made an announcement yesterday about the school situation. And I want to kind of peel the onion back, but on a narrow track.
Okay.
So I was one of the participants in the Texas School Safety Center's conference today. And the commissioner had opening remarks, and the state director for emergency management had the closing remarks. And there were several, let's say 4 different superintendents that was they had pre-taped and they had remarks. But one of the superintendents, I don't remember where it's from, but it's on the school safety site. They're going to publish it on that site. I want to open our discussion with this comment from another superintendent. He said, schools are the foundation of the community. I had never heard a superintendent say that, I don't believe, quite like that. Which takes me back to Houston. Now, kind of give us an overview of what your announcement was and what is going to be what is safety going to look like, the new safety measures with the virus and everything.
Thank you again for the opportunity. And I definitely agree that schools are the foundation of a community in collaboration with churches that also have always been the foundation of every community. Yesterday, I announced that I will be delaying the start of the school year for our students until Tuesday, September 8th. And our teachers would be delayed also by 2 weeks. They will report on August the 24th. They will report virtually. So all of their work will be virtual and online. Students will also start the beginning of the school year on September 8th and work online with active engagement with their classroom teachers from September 8th through October 16th. The main reason behind the decision to start virtually and to delay the start of the school year was all about health and life safety. Very concerned with the high number of positive cases in the city of Houston and the increasing number of deaths. Some people are able to recover from COVID-19, others have not been able to do it. We also surveyed our parents and our teachers to ask what was their comfort level in returning back to school. The survey closed on July 2nd, and only 14% of our teachers felt comfortable returning back to the classroom to teach students. Same with our parents. The results is initially you had more people feeling comfortable coming back to return online. But then if you think about it, we had that spike, right?
Right.
For July, and since then it's just been going. And that was right when our survey was closing. And like I said, looking at the medical data, I know some people argue with science. And like I told a group yesterday, there are people who say they don't believe in COVID. Well, something is killing people in this country. Okay?
Yes.
Something is making people sick. And whether you believe it's COVID, a virus, or whatever, we need to proceed with caution. And that was the reason I made the decision. It was a painful decision because we serve a high number of students from homes of poverty, and we have a certain percentage of students that are academically behind. And I definitely believe engaging face-to-face with a teacher is the best method. But when it's unsafe, no one's learning anyway, because you have people worried about moving, worried about touching each other. And so that was why I made that decision. Things will be totally different than this spring when we had to immediately move to online instruction. There is a more structured plan for our teachers and our students as it relates to the number of minutes or hours per day that they must be actively engaged. Grades will count. Students will be required to submit assignments to their teachers, and teachers will be grading assignments. We will also be assigning academic tutors to support our needy students. We will continue to feed our students. We will have curbside meals available, or we will be delivering food out to some of our large apartment complexes.
Wait a minute. When you say curbside, you're talking about at each school?
Yes, at designated schools, and we've been doing this throughout the summer.
Yeah.
And in partnership also with the Houston Food Bank, that they could actually drive up to a school. We're outside and we actually hand them the food. Or we're going to do deliveries to large apartment complexes where our students reside. Because, I know our parents have to go back to work. And so some of our students will be at home, learning at home, and they won't be able to make it to their elementary, middle, or high school. So we're going to try to take food to where our children are.
So now you said there will be designated schools. How will the public know which schools will be designated?
We publish information on our district website. We do call outs. We send it to local media. I will tell you the media partners have been wonderful. They have been publicizing on their stations, the morning news, the midday news, the evening news, where those locations are. Local radio stations have been publicizing it. And so it's a combination of getting the word out via social media, emails, telephone calls, and using radio and TV stations.
Well, that's pretty comprehensive. So everybody ought to get the word.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, give us an idea that when you walk into the front door of a elementary school and the middle school and the high school, what are we gonna notice that's different?
Great question. You're going to notice signage that talks about social distancing, signage that talks about that masks are mandated, that we should be washing our hands frequently. And then when you walk in, there's going to be someone from a wellness team. It could either be the school nurse or another identified staff that's going to take your temperature. They are going to make sure that you have a mask or hand you a mask if you do not have one on. They're going to ask you a series of health questions to see if we need to allow you entry. You will see the plexiglass like we see at the grocery store when you go to the bank or to the dentist or wherever you are engaging or interacting with someone. You will see that at the front entrance when you go in at that desk or into that office.
Well, let's go right there.
Okay.
What about a student that comes in and you take the temperature and it's at fever pitch?
We have an isolation room, and so they will go to that isolation room for just about, I would say, 90% of our campuses. That's the school nurse's office, and there's a separate room where they can be isolated. And then, of course, the school nurse does what he or she does best of being a nurse. They will evaluate that student. They will contact the parent if there are concerns, and even not only with students, with staff, if there are concerns as it relates to COVID-19. They contact our Health and Medical Services Department. They will go through and ask them a series of questions. Based on those questions and how they're answered, there triggers a call to the local county health department, where we also talk with them and engage with them. And then there are recommendations made as to what happens next for either the employee or the student.
So now we're past the front door. And the next place that we're gonna stroll to is the cafeteria. What are we gonna see in the cafeteria?
Well, cafeteria is going to look different right now because 9 times out of 10, we will be converting the cafeteria to a classroom. And I'll tell you why. Breakfast and lunch to limit movement by students and interactions with others. We are prepared to serve breakfast and lunch in the classroom. We serve breakfast in the classroom now for most of our elementary and middle schools, or it's a grab and go. So students would be eating in their classrooms. Same thing for lunch. Because of if we are implementing social distancing of 6 feet or more, our classroom numbers and the size will be limited. And so we will need to utilize our cafeterias to actually put students in to be able to separate them. What you will also see either in the classroom or in the cafeteria is we've taped off and placed desks in actually squares to say, okay, this is where this desk needs to stay. You will see portable plexiglass that a teacher might need to put up if they're working with either one-on-one with a student or in a small group. And then there'll still be separation of that plexiglass in between students.
Well, now on that point, did I hear something about you all were ordering a high volume amount of masks?
We have them in. We not only have we ordered masks, but also the Texas Education Agency sent us masks. They sent face shields for our teachers. We also have masks. So every day, a student and teachers or staff. So and it is district wide. So it's not just at the school sites. We have enough masks for everyone to receive a new mask daily.
Wow. So that means you have over 1 million masks.
We have a lot. we have a lot. We have a lot. Still waiting on some wipes to come in. So if you know someone, let me know. But every classroom, every area will have, also every teacher will have wipes, hand sanitizer, gloves, like I said, the mask. They'll have what they need in their classroom. We have additional staff that will be cleaning the high touch areas more frequently, cleaning the bathrooms more. So we will bring in those. So this staff that used to help us in the cafeteria will shift to help us with custodial services.
So on the conference call today, that was one of the questions that was asked about the restrooms. How are you going to space them in the restrooms when they're washing their hands, and how is that going to look?
And we've taping things off, like I said, the dividers of so they'll social distance. Also, you think about it now, teachers have systems when they allow students to go to the restroom. Normally, they go as a class. Of course, we would be splitting that in half. They would social distance, and there would be someone directing students in and out of the bathroom so that they are not interacting or coming in close contact with another peer.
Okay, so on this tour, we've gone to, what about the playground or the gym?
So gym, if it's a middle or high school, because most of our elementary schools do not have gyms, the gyms will more than likely be also possibly converted to classrooms. As you think about going outside, outside interaction will be, of course, physically distanced. Students will have to socially distance. The normal way of playing with each other, swinging and things of that nature, it's going to have to be very controlled because of the fact of cleaning that equipment. And so initially, it will not look like the days of recess where everyone goes out and they just play. It is going to be have to be much more organized.
So we've gone through the school. I think we hit the essential buildings, the essential rooms, cafeteria. So how are parents included, or how are they included in the process of safety?
So we actually had two committees. We had a communicable disease committee comprised of about 60 people that included parents, teachers, principals, central office staff that developed, and also community members with a health background that helped develop our safety plan around students returning to school. We also have what we call an instructional continuity plan that outlines how learning will look in the virtual environment. We have a class that will launch right at the beginning of August for our parents, which is an parent course called Introduction to Virtual Instruction, where we will walk parents through how to help their students virtually. Same thing when it's time for us to reopen face-to-face. We will be, just like you said, walk me through. We will have video capturing what those procedures, safety procedures are and how they will look on a campus. We will, when we return face-to-face, limit visitors to campuses. You remember the time when parents would go in, they would eat with their students at lunchtime,
Yes.
for different parties and things of that nature. The social experience, that will be limited when we start back face-to-face.
Now, what about these hot spots? How are you all, didn't I hear something about that you were making available hotspots or something of that sort?
We were making available laptops or Chromebooks. It just depends on the grade level of the student. And if they do not have access to the internet, we're making available hotspots. We deployed computers and hotspots this summer. As our shipments continue to come in, we are continuing to deploy those devices to our families. And so we surveyed them. There will be another survey conducted the middle of August so that we can deploy additional computers or hotspots to students that need them.
So Are these hotspots so designed if one is in a house on a particular street, more than one house can access the hotspot, or is it just for that particular house?
You stumped me on that one. That one I'll have to get the information for. That one I do. That's you stumped me. I do not have that information as it relates to how that hotspot works. I know we can make it work, but I will find out for you and get that information.
Let me tell you why I thought about it. I thought about it because at one time, Bill White was supposed to create uh, Wi-Fi access
Okay.
into several neighborhoods or zip codes where the vulnerable populations have been identified.
Hmm.
I don't know how I don't know how far it went, but they did not get to implementation.
Okay.
And the other reason I brought that up was because I don't want to get off of COVID, but I want to infuse these other conversations to see how does the school district address these. So since we're coming to, or we are in almost the middle of uh, hurricane season,
Hmm.
flooding season, heat, and mosquitoes. We have all of those plus the pandemic. So how do y'all address the possibilities on top of in coordination with the coronavirus?
And, we prepared. We have contingency plans as it relates to if there is a hurricane event similar to what we went through in Harvey. We have teams that go in and take care of cleaning up facilities. Like I said, we're going to be feeding our families anyway. If we have to shift from one location to the other, we would do that. But we always prepare for some type of emergency, just based on where we live in this beautiful country.
Absolutely. Okay, so one of the items that came up in the conference today, and I want to ask you about it as far as how does it translate to HISD, was the prescription that's in Senate Bill 11. Are you familiar with that one?
Which portion of it?
The the school safety allotment part,
Hmm.
and you touched on it already. The Safe and Security Committee, you touched on that one already, and because in Senate Bill 11, there was some new state mandates, and I was trying to see uh, how does it affect HISD.
Well, as it relates to any Senate bill or any state mandates, for example, the state mandated that we form a committee and that the committee has to meet. It has to be comprised of course, local and county representatives, also officials or representatives from the district. So we have a committee that meets. There's an established agenda. Initially, we share those safety plans with the committee. We also have to provide training to our principals and other staff members around the plan. And so we just follow the guidelines or the directives of the state, and we do what we need to do to implement them.
Okay, so what about athletics? Will you be doing football, basketball, or what is that going to look like?
As long as we're in a virtual environment, it will be delayed. What I shared with our athletic director, and I believe I shared also yesterday, if we have to have have football late into January, February, we're willing to do what we need to do. So once we resume back face to face, we will still ensure that our athletes have an opportunity to compete. But of course, that's driven by also competing with other school districts and based on what their calendars will be also.
So in this situation, do the different athletic directors convene some kind of way and discuss coordinate whatever the plan is?
Oh, yes, most definitely. So the athletic directors across the school districts and across the state, they right now, of course, they're holding virtual meetings, but they coordinate schedules, they make changes. Think, just like we have a crisis, like you said, we have a bad flooding. Sometimes we have to adjust schedules, but they get together and they make those necessary adjustments.
Now, the one place I forgot to ask about was the good old trusty school bus. What is the school bus environment gonna be on the way to and from school?
Same thing, entering students have, utilizing hand sanitizer when they enter onto the bus, physical distancing on the bus, which is going to limit the number of students that we can transport. And so that's one of the issues that's very concerning, is that we might not be able to transport all the students in the past that we have been able that we have transported.
So in the transport and transportation component, if you have to make more trips, is the state allotting you any additional revenue for gas or maintenance?
No, not right now. We are not receiving any additional dollars as it relates to that.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you a disaster scenario.
I think I've had enough, don't you? Really?
Well, I figured you ought to have the answers right at hand. I thought that would be an easy.
Oh gosh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So let me say it another way. Um, One of the presenters today was a parent,
Mm.
and she was a parent, and they had an active shooter at both schools, one in Colorado, and the other one was in Connecticut, Sandy Hook.
Mm.
Her children were at Sandy Hook
Mm.
and at the school in Colorado. One of the first things she said once they played that it was an incident at that school, she rushed to the school. And in the training we get, they say that's not what's supposed to happen. So how do you inform the students about the parents about if there's something going on, or talk to them or direct them to the reunification uh, site, staging site? How do you get those types of messages so you won't have a bottleneck of parents rushing to a school trying to get their children? How do you address that one?
Text messages, phone call outs, emails, social media. Those are our methods for getting information out to our parents and to our families. It doesn't prevent people or stop them from coming. Of course, as a parent and as someone that wants to go find out if their child is safe, they're going to do that anyway. But those are the methods that we utilize to communicate with our parents, or would utilize in the event.
Okay, now another one that's coming up, service that is coming up, more and more and more and more, is the mental health impact.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you, now I have to give you one of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
So when I worked for Worthing, I used to work at Worthing and Sterling. Whenever there was a child that got shot or something like that, they would send those counselors in.
Mm-hmm.
To counsel the children, talk to them. And my question was, when are they going to have a counseling, a grieving session like that for the parents that includes at least one church in the community near the school? Because parents are grieving as well when you have certain events. So is that something that's too far-fetched if you have a situation where you you know not just the children need some counseling or consoling, the parents also, or is that something that could happen at one of your schools if something happened, were to happen?
Last year, we offered what we call parent university courses throughout our district. We offered them monthly for our parents.
Uh-huh.
And when you attend a parent university session, they're offered at this across the city, 4 or 5 different locations, same topics. And parents have an opportunity to hear a keynote speaker, and then they have the opportunity to self-select the type of courses or class that they would like to attend. And so we had a variety of topics: grief, overcoming grief, how to help your child. We had all types of topics to meet the needs of our parents, and that was based on what they told us they needed. Could we do more? Most definitely. And we are still working on that. I've actually been in conversations with some of our faith-based leaders of how they can support and partner with us as we move forward, even in this virtual format. So we're always open to partnering with our churches and other community organizations to provide resources to our parents.
Well, that leads me to another question. You occupy a pretty important place in the city structure, county structure. Have you ever had an interview where uh, you have a cameraman following you around your regular day? That this is the day in the life of a superintendent. You ever done one of those?
I have not. And we've talked about it, my team and I, but we have not put it into to action.
I tried to get Mayor Turner to do it, but he was just on another planet. I thought it would be a good idea to kind of give the people a look inside, behind the scenes on this is what this is about, just to give us a sample of that. I thought it would be a good public relation information.
At times, though, it makes it difficult because a lot of conversations do have to be confidential. So it makes it hard. And being in public relations and media, when you
Yeah,
tell someone to turn off the camera, they don't necessarily turn off the camera. So I
well,
understand the challenges and that why people are apprehensive about doing that.
Donald Trump not apprehensive. I'm just. Let me go on to the next question. Okay, so how does HISD from uh, all the districts that you see across the country, do you get on conference calls with other superintendents in other states and other cities?
Every day, almost every day, especially since COVID. I'm a part of a number of groups. We have our Region 4 superintendents. Actually, I was finishing up a call with them when I joined you this evening. I'm a part of various organizations like large school districts across the country. We meet once a week. We have 2 other groups here in the state of Texas that we're on conversations with school superintendents across the state of Texas. But we're constantly meeting and sharing ideas. All of us right now are experiencing the same challenges as it relates to this virus. And how do we support our students and our families during this crisis?
So during this kind of time and collaboration, I'm this season a zone of collaboration. Do any of the universities come into play with these discussions that you have on mitigation or preparation?
One of our, of course, HCC is our main partner as it relates
Uh,
to our dual credit program. And so we meet, we actually had our meeting last monthly. We scheduled to meet monthly, where the president and his senior staff, we're meeting, talking about still how can we serve the needs of our students. Remember, we share facilities. So we have a number of our programs on their campuses. And so we meet, his members of his team also served on my communicable disease committee. And so we do interact with each other, but they're the largest partner as it relates to one of our local colleges.
so let me try to get ready to close out on career and technology. So you have several schools that are high profile, school Yates, with the maritime and the law enforcement. So how do you see those different career track schools? How do you see them rolling out in 2020?
Rolling out in 2020, those schools will start out virtually. The various programs, including Barbara Jordan, where we have career and technical programs that are actually hands-on, we will have to bring students in small numbers so they can still get their hours in so they can meet their certification requirements. I will tell you, our career and technical programs are growing. There's a large interest in all of the programs that we offer across the district, which is so exciting that we have those opportunities for our students. And Sterling High School graduated its first female pilot this past spring.
Wow.
Hispanic young lady, just so proud of her. And she even encouraged her mother to go get her license. So it's exciting.
Really?
Yes, that we have available for our students in this district.
Okay. Well, the one area just came to, I'm not doing like Colombo now. I'm not doing a Colombo.
I don't know.
What about discipline? Did you have to do anything or in discussions as you're looking at the comprehensiveness of it? Are there going to be any discipline management changes or techniques?
You mean for virtual learning or just in general as it relates to school reopening?
Yeah, both, but just say for the virtual.
Not a lot of issues around discipline when we were in virtual learning this past spring, but you treat it like any other discipline. If you have to take a student out of a class, if they're being inappropriate on the video, you follow up, you contact the parent, and you address it. And they might have like you and I doing this one-on-one interview. They might have to have a one-on-one session with the teacher, and so we address things as they arise. As it relates to discipline in school, we have a student code of conduct that's shared with all of our parents at the beginning of the school year, and principals and teachers use that student code of conduct. They follow that as it relates to handling discipline on their campuses.
Have you found that parents and grandparents are really speaking about, they have upped the learning curve on how to use technology on the phone and how to communicate? Have you seen an uptick in that?
I've seen an uptick, but I also know that we still need to help a lot of our parents and, like you said, and grandparents. And so that's why we're going to be offering classes to help them and introduce them to virtual learning, where someone will actually call someone on the telephone and walk them through how to log on, how to do whatever they need to do to help their child be successful. So if a parent can go in automatically and take the class, they can. But where you have that grandparent that is truly, like I said, not into technology, we're going to help them and say, this is what your grandchild needs to do every day. At 9 o'clock, they should be logging in. Here's the password, it's the username, password. Here's a picture of what they should be clicking on. But our job is to help parents and meet them where they are. And so that's our goal as we continue to move forward with virtual learning.
I know you have a volunteer group that's inside of that I don't know, I forget what you all call it.
Our VIP program, a volunteer program. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is that gonna go away, or
No.
can people still contact you if they want to volunteer, or how does that work?
On the district website, they can still go in and complete the volunteer application. They have to go through the background check. But yes, we will still need volunteers. We need volunteers to help get students online, to work with them. We still need volunteers. And so we are still pushing for volunteers.
So I'm from Jamaica, and I just moved to Houston. And I'm looking for a school district. I'm from Fifth Ward. I ain't from Jamaica. But I'm looking for a school district to put my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, somebody in school. Why would I select HISD?
Well, number one, let's just say you have a kindergarten student. My
No,
selling.
no. We ain't going back that far.
See that going back? Okay, you have a because I'm really going there, but as it relates to high school.
Oh,
Number
okay.
we have a student. We have so many options for our high school students. Number one, I shared with you, we have a great partnership with HCC. Our high school students can graduate with an associate's degree before they receive their high school diploma. We pay for them to take those college courses at HCC. They're either taking classes on HCC's campus while they're in high school or at our local high schools. We have an opportunity for students to, like you said, go to one of our career and technical through one of our programs to receive a level 1 or level 2 certificate. We have opportunities for students who are interested in advanced placement courses to earn college credit through those courses. Once again, something that we pay for. But we also have mentoring programs that are major, not only for our high school students, but K-12. We have our Ascending to Men program, which is a mentoring program for our boys of color. We have our Roses program, which is a mentoring program for young women of color. And then we have our Miles Scholars Academy, which is it is for students from Worthing High School. It's from for students from Wheatley High School and Cashmere High School. And thanks to Senator Boris Miles, we were able to receive almost $20 million to support and implement that program.
Well, now this is my last question for real. Now, this is the largest district in the state of Texas. How do the big corporations reach out to you? What's that dynamic like?
Well, we're still trying to increase the number of partnerships that we have with the large corporations, not only in the city of Houston, of course, but worldwide. So there are partnerships that we have with various companies, our community development department, or via our HISD Foundation. They reach out and share with us how they would like to partner with us. And then we develop a plan. And so we have various partners. For example, Verizon is one of our partners that we have a middle school initiative where they have provided devices for our middle school students. And also Sprint provided the hotspots for our high school students. Remember, we have a one-to-one program for our high school students called Power Up, where every high school student has a device or they've received those. And that's been going on for a number of years. So Sprint is one of the partners that helped us with those Power Up devices. The hotspots.
Well, I've exhausted all my questions for now.
What now?
But we sure appreciate you taking the time to come and give us the 411 on HISD, and maybe sometime in September. When is school going to start again?
Tuesday, September 8th.
September the 8th on a Tuesday. Sometime after that, we'll try to schedule you and Dr. Carlisle to give us an update on, after 2 weeks of school, how did it work?
Okay, that will be great. Just reach out to me.
All right, well, just give us your closing remarks, and we'll see you the next time.
Well, once again, thank you for the opportunity. I want all of our parents and our community members to know that HISD is determined and ready to serve every child in the city of Houston. We are going to have a great 2020-21 school year.
That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. Mark. All right. Well, we've come to the end of the road just about. But I want to say that a lot of information that Dr. Lathan provided I thought was good information as to what it looks like at HISD. We're going to sign off, and we hope that you will join us on the next go-around of Public Access, Public Affairs. Charles X. White, your host, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.